On the day Xiao Yanan was poisoned, the poison powder was found during a search of my room. My husband was convinced that I was jealous of his former lover, and my mother-in-law forced me to confess. Even the child I had cared for with my own hands for 3 years cried out, "I want him to die." They thought I would still kneel and plead my case, just as I had in the past. But instead, I handed over the keys, summoned the clan elders, and drew up this document in front of everyone. From now on, what medicine he takes, whom he sees, whether he lives or dies, none of it concerns me. But after I moved out of the Marquise's mansion, the child grew sicker and sicker with each passing day. Just as the medicine bowl shattered, I opened my eyes. Brown medicinal liquid splashed onto the hem of my skirt. The bitter scent was mingled with a faint, almost imperceptible hint of sweetness. On the bed, a child of 7 or 8 was convulsing violently, his thin fingers clutching the brocade quilt tightly, while a pinhead-sized red rash appeared on his wrists. The 2 old maids couldn't hold him down. The physician knelt by the bed, silver needles scattered all over the floor. "Anna!" The sound of hurried footsteps echoed from behind me. Before I could even turn around, someone yanked my shoulder violently. The man wore a black cloak, still carrying a chill, his armor still on, his hand clamped down on my shoulder like an iron vice. Zhang Mingtang, his eyes were bloodshot. "What did you put in Yanan's medicine?" I opened my mouth, but first, a searing pain exploded in my head. Countless memories that weren't my own flooded in. The great Yang dynasty, the Marquis of Jing'an's manor, Zhang Mingtang, the legitimate daughter of the Zhang family, and the man standing before me, Xiao Jingheng, the Marquis of Jing'an. I'd been transported into a book, into a historical romance novel I'd read last night, where I become the infamous malicious stepmother. In that novel, Xiao Jingheng once had a former lover, Suwan, who died young. Suwan was of low birth and died outside the city before she could enter the Marquise's mansion, leaving behind only a son. 3 years ago, Xiao Jingheng brought the child back to the Marquise's mansion and had him entered into the family registry. Since then, the Marquise's wife, Zhang Mingtang, has been labeled by everyone as a jealous woman who cannot tolerate the son of a concubine. She forbade Xiao Yanan from eating sweets or staying up late to play, and would punish the servants around him at the slightest provocation. The more frequently the child fell ill, the stricter she became and the worse her reputation grew. And today's poisoning incident was the final straw that broke her. The poison powder would be found in her room. Unable to defend herself, she was stripped of her authority over the household, flogged, and confined to the family temple. 3 months later, she died on a snowy night. As her body was carried away on a straw mat, Xiao Jingheng was petitioning to have Xiao Yanan named Crown Prince. The book describes her fate in a single sentence: "What goes around, comes around." But at this moment, the memories belonging to the original host were flooding back, layer by layer. She did indeed forbid the child from eating sweets, because after Xiao Yanan had eaten honey cake, he experienced palpitations and vomiting. She forbade the burning of incense in Qingwu courtyard, because every time the child had a night terror, there was always a cloyingly strong scent of incense in the room. She punished the servants not to humiliate anyone, but because someone, knowing full well the child was taking medicine, still secretly fed him tonics of unknown origin. She had tried to explain herself, time and time again, but Xiao Jingheng wouldn't believe her. When Lady He claimed she was jealous of Suwan, he became convinced that everything she did was merely a ploy to win his favor. As time went on, even Xiao Yanan began to fear her. "Your Excellency," Matron Zhao entered from outside, holding a small white porcelain jar in both hands. "We found this under the lady's makeup box." The physician leaned in to sniff it, and his expression changed. "The scent of this powder is extremely similar to that in the young master's medicinal residue." The room suddenly fell silent. Xiao Jingheng slowly turned his head to look at me. "Do you have anything else to say?" Lady He sat by the bed, rapidly fingering her prayer beads. Jingheng saving the child is the priority. Her eyes were red-rimmed, but her voice was cold. "As for this venomous woman, once Yanan wakes up, we'll ask the clan elders to deal with her." I looked at the child on the bed. His hair at the forehead was soaked with sweat, and his face was alarmingly pale. On the wooden panel at the head of the bed were several haphazard charcoal marks. 3 petals, like a broken plum blossom. I glanced at it briefly, then looked away. There was no evidence at the moment. Explanations were useless. Begging and pleading were of no use either. Following the plot of the original book, Zhang Mingtang began to prove her innocence from that moment on. She cried, insisting she hadn't poisoned anyone, begging Xiao Jingheng to uncover the truth, and pleading with him to trust her just this, once for the sake of their 4 years of marriage. In the end, every word of her defense turned into a sophistry. "I don't want to follow in her footsteps." "Since your grace is convinced I did it," I said, "from this day forward the young master's medicine, meals, clothing, and servants, none of them are to pass through my hands." Xiao Jingheng froze. "Lady," his prayer beads also paused. "What did you say?" I said, "I will no longer take care of Xiao Yanan." Xiao Jingheng's expression darkened. "With the child's life hanging in the balance, you still resort to such tactics to force me to submit. So he thought I was just throwing a tantrum." I looked at him. "Since your excellency is convinced I am the culprit, how dare you let me continue to care for him?" He did not answer immediately. I continued, "Summon the clan elders and draw up a formal document. From now on, I am not to approach Qingwu courtyard, not to touch the young master's medicine or food, and not to make any changes to his entourage. That way, if anything happens to him in the future, at least it won't be pinned on me." Grand lady, he snorted derisively. "Do you think that by stepping down, you can clear your name? No. So the investigation into today's poisoning case will proceed as usual, but future responsibilities will be settled separately. I raised my finger to point at the porcelain jar held by Matron Zhao. Since this item was found in my chambers, please seal it away as well. Whoever touched it or brought it in must be thoroughly investigated. Matron Zhao's fingertips tightened. The movement was extremely subtle. I saw it after all. Yet Xiao Jingheng kept his gaze fixed on me. Zhang Mingtang, I'll ask you one last time. Do you admit your mistake? Xiao Yanan, lying on the bed, suddenly let out a pained whimper. Though delirious from his fever, he pulled himself tightly into Huanru's embrace the moment he saw me. I don't want her. Father, send her away. Huanru held the child tighter as tears fell from her eyes. Don't be afraid, Anna. No one can hurt you anymore. A sharp pain suddenly pierced my chest. It wasn't my own emotion. It was the instinct left behind by the original host. She had cared for this child for 3 years, yet even he believed she would harm him. I closed my eyes for a moment. When I opened my eyes again, only clarity remained. Please, elder. Defend. I knelt outside Qingwu courtyard for an entire hour. Lady, he said the child was not yet out of danger, and that as his mother, I should kneel to pray for his well-being. The blue stone floor was bone-chilling. Qingdai knelt behind me, her tears falling one by one onto her sleeve. Madam, your body cannot endure this. I whispered. Don't cry. But the young master, clearly. There are too many people here. Qingdai bit her lip tightly. An hour later, the 2 elders of the Shao clan arrived. The document was drafted in the side hall of Qingwu courtyard. Xiao Jingheng sat at the head of the table, with Lady He at his side, while Huanru remained by the child's bedside. I explained the terms one by one. Xiao Yanan's future medical care, diet, servants, and upbringing shall all be decided by Xiao Jingheng and Lady He. Without permission, I am not to enter Qingwu courtyard, nor am I to bring the child any items on my own initiative. Accordingly, I shall not be held responsible for any issues arising from negligence regarding the child's diet, medication, or servants. An elder of the clan frowned. The Marquise's wife is still in the mansion. To speak of assigning responsibility now seems rather cold and distant, doesn't it? I looked at him. Yet, when the poison powder was found in my room today, none of you thought it inappropriate for a husband and wife to draw such clear lines between themselves. Another clan elder cleared his throat. Grand lady, he said, write it down. She agreed too quickly, as if she were afraid I might change my mind. Since she doesn't want to take charge, let Wanru look after Yanan. Wanru has a gentle disposition. That's certainly better than someone who's always laying down the law at the drop of a hat. Upon hearing this, Wanru hurriedly declined. I simply feel sorry for young Master Yanan. I have no other intentions. Though she spoke casually, the expressions of everyone in the hall were somewhat subtle. Everyone knew that Lady He intended to bring her niece into the family. She was just waiting for me, the legitimate wife, to make room. Xiao Jingheng looked at me, as if trying to read jealousy on my face. I didn't react in the slightest. After finishing the letter, he handed the brush to me. It's not too late to take back what you just said. Are you afraid, Marquis? I'm afraid you'll regret it later. Then let the 2 clan elders serve as witnesses. I must not be allowed to go back on my word. I signed my name and pressed my thumbprint onto the document. Lady He, Xiao Jingheng, and the 2 clan elders also affixed their seals in turn. 3 copies were made. 1 copy remained at the Marquise's residence. 1 copy was kept by the clan. I kept 1 copy for myself. Xiao Jingheng set down his seal, his tone cold. You'd better remember what you said today. Of course. That afternoon, I handed over the keys to Qingwu Courtyard, the pharmacy access token, the kitchen roster, and the prescriptions I'd used for Xiao Yanan over the past 3 years. A thick stack of ledgers lay on the table. Lady He casually flipped through a couple of pages. Is it really worth keeping a daily record of a child's eating and sleeping? She tossed the ledgers to Matron Zhao. Put it in the storeroom. Don't leave it here to be an eyesore. I didn't say anything. That was just the official medicine ledger. The original owner, fearing the ledger might be lost, would make a separate copy every month and store it in her dowry chests. That habit saved me. When we moved to the side courtyard, Qingdai followed behind, clutching the last box, her eyes red as a rabbit's. Madam, how many sleepless nights have you spent for the young master all these years? Have they all forgotten? It's not that they've forgotten. I pushed open the weathered wooden door to the side courtyard. It's that they never cared. The courtyard had been uninhabited for years. The window paper was torn, moss grew in the corners of the walls, and a thick layer of dust covered the bed. Qingdai's hands trembled with anger. As the wife of a marquis, how could they let you live in a place like this? As long as I have a place to stay. I looked up and scanned the room. Don't tidy up just yet. Go fetch the steward in charge of my dowry. What are you planning to do, miss? In her panic, she even used the title she'd had before her marriage. Take inventory of the dowry. Over the past 4 years, the original owner had used her generous dowry to plug countless financial holes for the Marquise's household. The birthday banquet for Lady He repairs to the Shao clan's academy, gifts for weddings and funerals of collateral branches, and even the silver needed to cover expenses for Xiao Jingheng's former military subordinates visiting the capital all came out of her account. The Marquise's household had granted her authority over the household finances. It sounds quite respectable. In reality, she was responsible for managing the accounts and covering any shortfalls, yet when problems arose, no one listened to her. I had the steward in charge of my dowry bring all the ledgers to me. What belongs to the Marquise's household goes to the Marquise's household. What belongs to the Jiang family goes to the Jiang family. From now on, not a single coin will be commingled. The lights in the side courtyard stayed on all night. The next day, the steward who served Lady He arrived. Madam, the grand lady's birthday is next month. As usual, we'll need to draw 2,000 taels of silver from your private treasury. I ran my fingers across the abacus. No, the steward froze. In previous years, I managed the household funds, but I've already handed over the key. Whoever runs the household pays the bills. The steward's expression darkened. The lady's birthday banquet reflects on the Marquise's household's reputation. Then let the Marquise's household worry about its own reputation. He hadn't expected me to refuse. He stood there dumbfounded for a while before leaving. Barely 2 hours later, Xiao Jingheng arrived. He stood at the doorway, his gaze sweeping over the table covered with ledgers. What on earth are you up to? Count it as my money. It is the household's custom for the Marquise's household to cover the expenses for Mother's birthday banquet. The Marquis is mistaken. I pulled out an account book and pushed it toward him. This is the silver I've spent on various banquets for the Xiao family over the 4 years since I married into the Marquise's household, a total of 37,600 taels. The Marquise's household has never reimbursed a single coin. Xiao Jingheng didn't even open it. You are the Marquise's wife. Nowadays, you only remember that I'm the Marquise's wife when you need silver. His expression shifted slightly. Jiang Mingtang, you don't have to be so barbed in everything you say. Did the Marquis come to the side courtyard to discuss our relationship? He fell silent. Since that's not the case, let's talk about the accounts. I lowered my eyes and continued to click the abacus. Don't come to me again for the Marquise's household expenses. Xiao Jingheng stood there for a moment, then said coldly, Yanan has woken up. My fingertips paused for an instant. Oh, since Wanru took over, he hasn't had a single seizure for 3 days straight. There was a clear tone of scrutiny in those words. It was as if the child's improvement proved that everything that had happened before was entirely my fault. I asked, so what? Don't go near him anymore. It's written very clearly in the documents. I'm afraid you'll agree to it in words but pull strings behind the scenes. I looked up at him. Rest assured, Your Grace. This time, I truly don't want to get involved. He seemed stung by those words. In the blink of an eye, his expression turned cold again. That's for the best. 3. After He Wanru took over Qingwu Courtyard, Xiao Yanan's life became much happier than before. She didn't force him to get up at the hour of Mao. She didn't restrict his sweets. Even when he hadn't finished the homework his teacher had assigned, she would only say gently that he was still a child. Lady He sent over a bowl of Honeycrisp cheese, and Xiao Yanan ate more than half of it. All the servants in the mansion said that He was the one who truly cherished the child. As for me, I was strict and heartless. No wonder Xiao Yanan is afraid of me. On the 4th day, the incense pouches originally used in Qingwu Courtyard were removed. It wasn't because anyone had discovered a problem. Rather, He Wanru found the scent too heavy and replaced it with her favorite orchid fragrance. A few days later, the calming medicine was also largely discontinued because the child disliked its bitter taste. With both the medicine and the incense discontinued, Xiao Yanan naturally did not have any more severe episodes. But He Wanru was unaware of the reason behind it. Everyone assumed that the child had recovered simply because I had moved away. The rumors quickly spread to the side courtyard. Qing Dai overheard a few remarks and, furious, rushed out to confront them, but I called her back. Let them talk. Miss, it's clearly because you took such good care of him in the past that the young master has managed to hold on until today. Without evidence, their words only make them seem more guilty. I told her to close the courtyard gate and continue reconciling the accounts. As soon as I stopped dispersing funds, the Marquise's mansion quickly descended into chaos. The pharmacy came to demand payment for medicine owed from last year. Funds for repairing the roof of the clan school were still not being allocated. Lady He's birthday banquet, originally planned for 16 tables, had to be scaled back to 8. The steward of the Marquise's household came by 3 times in total. I didn't give in even once. Xiao Jingheng must still think I'm waiting for him to back down. On the 7th day, he had a jade hairpin delivered. It was one he'd brought back from a previous military campaign. The original owner loved it dearly and could never bring herself to wear it. The servant who delivered it said, "The Marquis says that once the lady accepts the hairpin, she should no longer hold a grudge against the grand lady over the birthday banquet." I placed the hairpin back in its box. "Take it away." The servant froze. The lady has always wanted it. The past is the past. Now it's not worth 2,000 taels. After the hairpin was returned exactly as it was, Xiao Jingheng never came again. Until the day of the family banquet. Although the festivities for Lady He's birthday had been scaled back, many of the Xiao clan relatives still attended. Since I hadn't yet finalized my divorce, I had no choice but to attend. During the banquet, He Wanru sat beside Xiao Yanan. The young man looked a bit healthier, with sweet porridge and chestnut flour cakes set before him. However, when he reached for the spoon, his fingertips trembled slightly. He Wanru noticed this. She quickly covered his hand with her handkerchief. "Did you stay up too late playing last night? Is your hand too weak?" Xiao Yanan nodded. I watched them from 2 tables away, a slight heaviness settling in my heart. He hadn't truly recovered. His symptoms were simply being masked. "Madame," he suddenly laughed. "Yanan, pour Aunt Wanru a cup of tea today. She's been looking after you all this time. You should thank her." Xiao Yanan obediently held out the tea. "Thank you, Aunt Wanru." Wanru hurriedly accepted it, her eyes slightly reddened. I only hope Brother Yanin is safe. No title matters to me. All the relatives present understood the implication. Someone laughed. A child knows who truly cares for them. That's right. Blood ties are no match for true affection. On the surface, these words were meant to praise Wanru, but in reality, every sentence was aimed at me. I silently took a bite of my food. Seeing that I didn't respond, Lady He's smile faded slightly. Mingtang, Yanin has suffered greatly this time. Today, in front of the clan elders, you should apologize to the child, and then this matter will be considered settled. I set down my chopsticks. Does the Grand Lady mean the poisoning case won't be investigated? The poison was found in your room. What else is there to investigate? If that's the case, why is an apology enough? I looked at Xiao Jingheng, attempting to murder the heir to the Marquise's household. Shouldn't this be reported to the authorities? The room fell, suddenly silent. The Marquise's household only wants to pin the crime on me, but they don't want the authorities to actually get involved. Because once an investigation begins, the kitchen, the medicine cabinet, the servants, and the accounts will all have to be scrutinized. Lady He's expression darkened. Family matters must not be aired in public. So, madam, you're determined to label me the murderer, yet you refuse to let the authorities investigate. I don't understand. Who exactly are you protecting? How dare you? She slammed her hand down on the table. Xiao Jingheng said coldly, Zhang Mingtang, today is mother's birthday. Since the Marquis knows this is a birthday banquet, he shouldn't be interrogating me at the table. Grand Lady, he suppressed her anger. Enough. You refuse to apologize, but you must still cover the medical expenses. The steward immediately handed her a bill. 1,800 taels. This included not only the cost of hiring the imperial physician and purchasing medicinal herbs for Xiao Yanan this time, but also the 2-century-old ginseng roots missing from Lady He's private treasury. I scanned it from beginning to end. I'll cover the medical expenses that passed through my hands prior to the day of the poisoning, but I won't cover anything after that. Lady He laughed bitterly in her fury. Yanan is your son, at least in name. Didn't you, Madam He, say with your own mouth that I'm unworthy of being his mother? I took out the document of responsibility and laid it flat on the table. Both clan elders are here. This is a good opportunity to take another look. The document states clearly that, effective from the date of the seal, Xiao Yanan's medicine, food, and daily care are no longer my concern. You won't let me see him yet. You expect me to keep paying. That makes no sense at all. One of the clan uncles furrowed his brow. We're family after all. Why be so petty? That's easy for you to say, uncle. I looked at him. Since we're family, how about you cover these medical expenses for the whole fu? He fell silent immediately. I took out a silver note for 300 taels. This covers the cost of the herbs that were already agreed upon before the document was sealed. As for the rest, whoever makes the decision is responsible. Just then, Xiao Yanan suddenly looked up. When he saw me, a look of obvious fear crossed his face. I don't want her money. Wanru gently patted his back. Don't be afraid, Anner. The child clutched the hem of his shirt tightly. Father said she wants me dead. The silver note in my hand hovered midair. Xiao Jingheng furrowed his brow. When did I ever say that? Xiao Yanan froze for a moment. Aunt Zhao said father knows about it too. Aunt Zhao immediately knelt down. Perhaps the servants were spreading rumors behind my back. This servant failed to keep her mouth shut. Lady, he said. The child was startled. It's only natural that he misremembered a few words. No one pressed the matter further. Everyone thought it was just a trivial matter. Only I knew just how weighty those words were. The original host had once held Xiao Yanan in her arms all night after he fell ill. The child, delirious from his fever, had clutched her sleeve and called her mother. She had been overjoyed by that single word for a long time. Now, however, he says she wants him dead. A pain in my chest slowly spread. I pressed the silver note onto the bill. This is the last time. After saying that, I stood up and left the table. Xiao Jingheng caught up with me on the veranda. You don't have to take a child's words seriously. I'm not blaming him. Then, who are you putting on this act for? I stopped in my tracks. What do you think of me, Your Excellency? He had no answer. I looked at the wet corridor after the rain. I just suddenly realized that there's no point in staying here any longer. What are you up to now? I'm moving to the country estate. At first, Xiao Jingheng looked taken aback, but then his expression turned to understanding. Do you think leaving the mansion will force me to take you back? I smiled. The Marquis always seems to think that everything I do has something to do with you. Actually, it doesn't. On the day I moved out of the Marquise's mansion, I took only the dowry provided by the Jiang family and my own personal belongings. Grand Lady, he sent people to guard the storeroom, afraid I might take even a single bowl belonging to the Marquise's household. Qing Dai was so indignant that she opened the dowry inventory right in front of the steward and checked each item one by one. This set of rosewood table and chairs belongs to our young lady. So does the folding screen. And those 2 chests of medicinal herbs, they were a wedding gift from the Jiang family's patriarch, meant to be kept in her dowry chest. By the time everything had been moved, the side courtyard was more than half empty. Xiao Jingheng never showed his face. As the carriage rolled out of the Marquise's estate, I caught a glimpse of the roof ridge of Qingwu courtyard through a crack in the curtain. A small figure stood behind the window. I didn't know if it was Xiao Yanan. I didn't lift the curtain. The estate included in my dowry was on the outskirts of the capital, nestled beside the Qing River. Though small, it had fields, houses, and a few tenant families who had served the Jiang family for many years. The foreman's wife made me some scallion oil pancakes which were still steaming when she brought them over. I ate 2 in a row. Qingdai looked at me, and her eyes suddenly welled up with tears. When you were at the Marquise's mansion, you used to eat only half a small bowl at every meal. I thought you didn't have much of an appetite. There were so many rules at the Marquise's mansion. I took a sip of hot porridge. If a daughter-in-law eats too much, she said to lack grace. If she eats too little, she's accused of putting on airs. It's still better here. On my first night at the estate, I slept very soundly. No one knocked on my door in the middle of the night to say the child had a fever. There was no lady calling me early in the morning to lay down the rules. And I certainly didn't have to wait for a husband who would never come to my room anyway. I had thought that once I severed my responsibilities, I could completely distance myself from it all. Little did I know that 3 days later, Qingdai would uncover a camphor wood chest in the old storeroom. Hidden at the bottom of the chest were 27 thin volumes. Each cover bore the name of a month. The 12th year of Jinghe, 2nd month, 3rd month, 4th month, all the way up to this year. I opened the first volume. 3rd day of the month, Yanan coughed at night, developed a fever at the hour of chow, and a rash appeared on her wrist. 5th day of the month, stopped honey cakes, the rash subsided. The 9th day of the 1st month, the grand lady sent soothing incense. He woke in a start 3 times during the night. The 11th day, the incense was removed and the dose of the calming powder was reduced. The trembling in his hands eased slightly. The handwriting was neat and elegant. The further I read, the more detailed the entries became. Everything what Xiao Yanan ate each day, when he went to sleep, when he coughed, and when he experienced palpitations, was recorded with crystal clear precision. Some pages still bore dark brown stains for medicine. These were records left behind by the original owner. They were not, as the book claimed, evidence of a jealous wife gone mad. Rather, they were the result of one person spending 3 years trying to figure out why the child was always sick. Qingdai crouched by the trunk, and the tears she had held back for so long finally fell. You were afraid the young master's illness had no pattern back then, so you kept a daily record. The grand lady said you were cursing the young master to make him sick, and the Marquis thought you were meddling. After that, you kept it a secret from everyone else. I flipped through the pages one by one. The records showed a clear pattern. Every 1 or 2 months, Xiao Yanan would experience severe symptoms. A rash, trembling hands, nightmares, heart palpitations, brief loss of consciousness during severe episodes. Before each episode, Qingwu Courtyard would always change the incense or add a calming herb to the existing prescription. After an episode, the original owner would restrict his diet, remove the incense burner, and punish the servants who had fed him without permission. To outsiders, it simply appeared as though she had suddenly become strict. No one cared why she was being strict. When I turned to a page from last September, I found only 2 characters written on the paper. Plum bud. The bottom half of the page had been neatly torn away. I thought of the 3-petaled plum blossom at the head of the bed. Qingdai, have you ever seen this pattern before? I sketched it from memory. She studied it for a long time. It resembles the secret symbols the He family shop used in the past, but I cannot say for certain. I placed the most important volumes into the box. Prepare the carriage. Where are you going, miss? The pharmacy in the south of the city. Lu Huajin had once served at the Imperial Medical Academy. 2 years ago, he fell out of favor with his superiors for opposing the use of sick children as test subjects for new medicines. After resigning from his post, he opened this pharmacy in the south of the city. When I arrived, he was treating a leg injury for a street child. The child was so filthy I couldn't see his face and he was crying in pain. Lu Huajin didn't scold him. He simply asked a young apprentice to bring a piece of malt sugar. Only after the child had calmed down did he look up at me. Lady Hao? I won't be for much longer. I placed the records in front of him. Please take a look at this first, Dr. Lu. He didn't immediately trust me because of my status, nor did he refuse me outright because of the rumors circulating outside. He pored over them from the afternoon until dark, pulling out a few pages and rearranging them by date. Where is the child now? At the Marquise's residence. You can't see him? They signed the documents themselves, forbidding me from approaching him. Lu Huajin pointed to several entries in the record. Judging by the symptoms alone, it appears to be prolonged exposure to some unsuitable substance. Food? Not necessarily. Medicine? Not necessarily either. He closed the booklet. With only the records and no samples, I can't give you an answer. The next time he has an episode, try to obtain his leftover medicine, spices, and anything he ate before the episode. Also, don't just take one sample. Why? If someone at the Hao mansion really did something, a single sample might go missing. I glanced at him. Dr. Lu doesn't seem surprised. I just don't believe that every illness can be explained away as simply being frail. He said, likewise, I won't assume you're innocent just because of these records. I understand. He needed evidence. So did I. 5. On the day of the Shao clan's ancestral rites, I returned to the manor as custom dictated. Since Xiao Jingheng and I had not yet divorced, I could not be absent from the clan's ceremonial rites. Incense, smoke swirled before the ancestral hall. Xiao Yanan, dressed in a dark blue robe, stood at the very front of the Shao clan's young men. I hadn't seen him in half a month. His jawline had become a bit sharper. Wanru held his hand, frequently looking down to wipe the sweat from his brow. I saw his fingers trembling. Just as I was about to step forward, lady, he blocked my path. The document states clearly that you are not to approach Yanan. He's trembling. The child is just tired from standing for so long. Lady, he gave me a cold stare. Don't use this as an excuse to stir up trouble again. I had no choice but to stop. Halfway through the memorial service, Xiao Yanan suddenly collapsed. At first, he clutched his chest and gasped for breath. Then his whole body began to convulse, and white foam appeared at the corners of his mouth. Anner, Xiao Jingheng rushed over and scooped the child up. The ancestral hall instantly descended into chaos. The physician examined everything Xiao Yanan had touched before the episode, and finally found half a piece of chestnut cake in the lunchbox. The cake had been laced with a pungent medicinal powder. Who sent it? The steward knelt on the ground. It was old lady Li from the ladies' front courtyard. She said the estate had just made some new chestnut cakes, and the young master used to like them. Everyone's gaze fell on me at the same time. I never had anyone send anything in the first place. Lady, his face turned ashen. She's at the estate, yet her reach extends far. I didn't send it. Matron Zhao sneered. Old lady Li was a servant from your dowry. Could she really have acted on her own to harm the young master? Bring her here to confront her. The steward broke out in a cold sweat. Old lady Li has disappeared. As Xiao Jingheng walked past me carrying the child, his footsteps faltered. The look in his eyes was even colder than the first time. Seal off the Marquise's mansion. Send men to search the estate. By the time I returned to the estate, the Marquise's guards had already arrived. They ransacked every nook and cranny and found a packet of powdered medicine in the storage room behind the kitchen. It matched the powder in the chestnut cake down to the last grain. The evidence was so complete, it seemed as if it had been left there specifically for someone to find. I was taken back to the Marquise's estate and locked in the ancestral hall. That night, Xiao Jingheng came to interrogate me. He stood before a row of ancestral tablets, his back straight as a rod. Where is old lady Li? I don't know. Why was the powdered medicine found on your estate? I don't know. Is I don't know all you have to say? I looked at him. What does your excellency want to hear? Do you want me to admit that I'm jealous because Xiao Yanan is living so well with He Wanren? Xiao Jingheng's expression shifted slightly. If it wasn't you, then who else could it be? That is precisely what should be investigated. The first time, the poison powder was in your room. The second time, it was at your estate. He closed in step by step. Zhang Mingtang, how am I supposed to trust you? I'd smelled that packet of powder before. It was bitter and pungent. It was completely different from the faint, almost imperceptible sweet scent in the medicine bowl the first time. This time, the powder only caused an acute illness. The child's long-standing illness had another cause, but I had no evidence. Just as I was about to speak, the sound of crying suddenly came from behind the wall. Qingwu Courtyard isn't far from the ancestral hall. The night breeze carried the child's voice to me in fits and starts. Mother, don't go. I stood up almost instinctively. The guard at the gate immediately blocked my path with his sword. Xiao Jingheng also froze for a moment. Let me go see him. You have no right. Then, why did the Marquis come to ask me? I stared at him. If you believe I know how to save him, lift the ban and hand over control of Qingwu Courtyard, the medicine room, and the kitchen to me. I will decide who gets to stay and who must leave among everyone who comes near the child. All medicine and food must pass through my hands. Otherwise, I won't lay a finger on him. Anger flared in Xiao Jingheng's eyes. Are you using Yanan's life to bargain with me? Responsibility and authority should rightfully rest with a single person. You ask me to save lives, yet you won't let me manage the servants or inspect the medicine cabinet. If the child recovers, it's the Marquise's merit. If something happens to the child, the poison powder will be found in my room. I tugged at the corner of my mouth. Marquis, I have no desire to die for others. On the other side of the wall, the sobbing grew fainter. Mother, Xiao Jingheng's hands, hanging at his sides, clenched tightly. I knew he had heard it, yet he refused to admit who the child was calling out to. Save him first. We'll discuss the rest after he wakes up. I slowly sat back down on the meditation cushion. Then let Miss He save him. Zhang Mingtang, you signed that document. I looked up. Now that you want me to set it aside, you'll at least have to offer something of equal value first. That night, Xiao Yanan managed to get through it thanks to the imperial physician's acupuncture. The dose of poison in the chestnut cake wasn't large, but the reaction was severe. I was detained for 2 days. After the Jiang family learned of the situation, they sent people to apply pressure. Since the Marquise's mansion couldn't locate old lady Li, they had no choice but to let me go. Before I left, Xiao Jingheng was standing at the bottom of the steps. Yanan called for you while he was ill. I paused in my tracks. So what? If you care about him, why could you be so heartless? I turned my head. Marquis, was it me who locked myself in the ancestral hall? He fell silent. It's not that I wouldn't go in. It's that you wouldn't let me. On the 5th day after returning to the estate, Matron Tang arrived. She was Xiao Yanan's wet nurse from his childhood. 2 years ago, Lady He had sent her to the countryside on the pretext of her old age. As soon as she entered the door, she knelt down, clutching an old wooden puppet in her arms. The puppet was only 1 chi tall, dressed in a faded little general's uniform, with a clear sign of having been pried open on its left arm. Madam, this old woman is at fault. I told Qingdai to close the door. Stand up first, so we can talk. Auntie Tang refused. Back when the young master first arrived at the manor, it was this old woman who told him that Madam didn't like him. The grand lady gave me silver to keep an eye on the child and make sure you didn't coax him away. At the time, I thought you truly couldn't bear to keep the child Miss Sue left behind. She wiped away her tears. Latter, when you spent every day watching over the child, I knew I'd been wrong, but I didn't dare take it back. Why come now? Someone came looking for this old woman. She clutched the puppet tightly. They asked if Miss Sue had left anything behind before she died. I took the puppet. It sounded hollow when tapped on the bottom. There must be a hidden compartment inside, but I didn't know where the mechanism was hidden. Matron Tang said, before she died, Miss Sue entrusted it to the young master and instructed this old woman not to give it to anyone who came asking for it, especially not to anyone wearing a plum blossom brooch. I fetched paper and a brush and sketched a 3-petaled plum blossom. As soon as Matron Tang saw it, her face turned pale in an instant. That's the one. Who has worn it? Her lips trembled. After a long moment, she said, Matron Zhao. The He family's old private seal also featured a 3-petaled plum blossom. The He family again, but a single button doesn't prove anything. I asked, was Xiao Yanan often sick as a child? Yes. When he was a little over 2 years old, Aunt Zhao would always give him a kind of sweet pill. She said it was medicine to strengthen his body. After taking it, the young master would always fall into a deep sleep and occasionally even talk nonsense. Miss Sue later forbade him from taking it. Not long after, she herself fell so ill she could barely get out of bed. How did she die? Matron Tang shook her head. Everyone in the mansion said it was postpartum exhaustion. But half a month before Miss Sue died, she was still able to walk around the courtyard holding the young master. After seeing the grand lady once, her medicine was cut off. Qingdai and I exchanged glances. We couldn't open the puppet just yet to see what was hidden inside. For now, I could only take these new clues to Lu Huajin. He examined the powdered medicine from the first and second incident separately. The substance in the chestnut cake would only cause brief palpitations and spasms. It would take a much larger dose to be fatal. It's not the cause of the child's chronic illness and frailty. I spread out the prescription. According to the original owner's records, the child took the calming powder every time before falling seriously ill. At the same time, the sachets in the courtyard would be replaced. Lu Huajin rearranged the papers. The calming powder contains an ingredient called calming vine. It's harmless when taken on its own, but prolonged exposure to black hemp leaves will cause the medicine's properties to turn restless, first causing a red rash, then damaging the heart meridian. What does black hemp leaf smell like? It smells slightly sweet at first, but turns bitter with prolonged exposure. I recalled the medicine bowl that had shattered at my feet earlier. That hint of sweetness might not have come from the medicine. It could also have come from the incense in the room. If we only test the medicine, we won't find anything. If we only test the incense, we can't say it's poisonous either. Lu Huajin nodded. We must prove that both substances were present around the child for an extended period. We also need to prove who brought them in. I was silent for a moment. Save the child first. I wrote an anonymous letter and had Qingdai deliver it to the young physician who had recently arrived at Qingwu Courtyard. The letter contained only 2 sentences. Remove all scent pouches. Suspend the Enshensan for 3 days. At first, the young physician didn't dare to alter the prescription on his own. But when Xiao Yanan ran a fever again that night, and the imperial physician's prescription proved ineffective, he finally followed the instructions. The next day, the child did not have any seizures during the night. On the 3rd day, the trembling in his hands had noticeably subsided. When the news broke, my joy was short-lived. The fact that removing the incense worked only meant we were on the right track. It did not prove who had poisoned him. Besides, if the culprit realized the old method had failed, they would likely switch to a different approach. Sure enough, Xiao Jingheng quickly tracked down the estate by following the messenger. He slammed the anonymous letter down on the table. You wrote this. Yes, you've known the treatment all along. I was just making an educated guess based on the records. Why didn't you say so sooner? I glanced at him. I told you, you can't burn incense after taking the sedative. You said I was jealous of the gifts my mother sent and was deliberately nitpicking. Xiao Jingheng's breath caught. In the original host's memories, this scene had indeed taken place. After Xiao Yanan fell ill, she ordered her servants to throw away the sachet sent by Grand Lady He. Xiao Jingheng rebuked her to her face for being disrespectful to her mother-in-law. She explained that there was something wrong with the incense. He told her not to disguise her jealousy as concern. There was no evidence back then, he said, and there isn't any now either. I handed him a portion of the medical records. That's why I only dared to have them temporarily stop the medication and remove the incense. If I'm wrong, the Marquise's household will still hold me responsible. Xiao Jingheng glanced at the booklet but didn't flip through it. Return to the Marquise's household. I won't go back. Yanan needs you. What he needs is a doctor and a set of care protocols that aren't interfered with. Not a mother who's always ready to take the blame for the Marquise's household. Jiang Mingtang. He lowered his voice. What exactly do you want? Let Lu Huajin take the child's pulse. Samanu, who's been expelled from the Imperial Medical Academy. He resigned. He wasn't expelled. I cut him off. The Marquis has already decided he can't be trusted without even checking the facts. Xiao Jingheng's expression darkened. Are you determined to oppose me? I'm trying to save your son. If you don't want me here, the door is right there. In the end, he allowed Lu Huajin to enter the Marquise's mansion. After taking his pulse, Lu Huajin merely stated that there was indeed long-term internal damage, but the cause of the illness still required verification through samples. That same day, Grand Lady he ordered all the old sachets removed from Qingwu Courtyard to be burned. The reason given was that items associated with illness brought bad luck. Fortunately, Qingdai had bribed a young maidservant in advance, who smuggled one out through the back gate. When the sachet was delivered to the pharmacy, Lu Huajin opened the hidden compartment and picked out several dark-colored suya fragments from inside. Black hemp leaves, he said. They've been in constant conflict with the calming vine for so long that it's enough to have harmed the child to this state. I stared at those few fragments of leaves. It's still not enough. Lu Huajin placed the spices into a porcelain jar and sealed it himself. It's certainly not enough. Whoever handled the sachet can deny any involvement. But at least it proves that your past refusal to let him burn incense after taking his medicine wasn't just a tantrum. This sentence came 3 years too late. The original owner could no longer hear it. 7. The fire at the estate broke out in the middle of the night. By the time I was choked awake by thick smoke, the east wing was already ablaze. The flames raced straight toward the room where the ledgers were kept. Qingdai rushed in, still wrapped in her outer robe. "Miss, run." She dragged me out the door. The villagers carried buckets to put out the fire, but the wind was too strong, and the flames licked along the rafters, spreading toward the main house. "The ledgers are still inside." Qingdai turned to run back inside. I grabbed her by the arm. "I've already sent the important ones out." She paused for a moment. Ever since Lu Huajin warned me that the samples might also be lost, I had divided the records, spices, and copies into 3 sets. 1 set remained at the estate. 1 set was handed over to Lu Huajin, and 1 set was sent back to the Jiang family. Only a few unimportant manuscripts were burned. But Qingdai suddenly remembered something. The delivery slip for the old perfume pouch is still in the east wing. Taking me by surprise, she broke free from my grip and rushed inside. The roof beam crashed down with a thunderous roar. "Qingdai." I chased her to the doorway, but was firmly blocked by the estate manager. The fire raged until dawn. All that remained of the east wing were charred walls. I couldn't find Qingdai, nor was there a body. But at the base of the wall lay a soot-blackened brass clasp, a 3-petaled plum blossom. That afternoon, the steward of the Marquise's mansion arrived bearing a written order from the elders of the Shao clan. The lady has plotted to harm her stepson, bringing disgrace upon the Marquise's household. The clan has decided to temporarily seize the estate provided as part of her dowry to cover the young master's medical expenses. After reading the written order, I tossed it directly into the brazier, whose embers were still smoldering. The steward's expression changed. "Are you defying the clan, lady? This is part of the Jiang family's dowry. The estate deed, the dowry list, and the Ministry of Revenue's records are all here." I looked at him. "If anyone dares to seize it, I'll report it to the Jingzhou prefecture. If Xiao Jingheng wants the estate, let him come and take it himself." The steward was accompanied by more than 20 guards. It seemed they had originally intended to seize it by force. But if it really came to the authorities, the Marquise's mansion might not have the upper hand. In the end, he didn't dare make a move. Before leaving, he said coldly, "Madam, you'd better start thinking about how you'll manage once the divorce decree arrives." After he was gone, Lu Huajin made his way around the back mountain and into the estate. Qingdai might still be alive. There was no blood at the fire scene, nor any signs of a struggle. Someone took her away, amid the chaos. I clenched that brass clasp tightly. They knew I was investigating the perfume pouch. The estate is no longer safe. Lu Huajin glanced at the burned-out buildings. "You can go to the apothecary first." "No. If I go into hiding, they'll be even more convinced that all the evidence has been burned." I handed him the copper clasp. "Put it in storage for me. Also, have someone investigate the He family's country estate on the outskirts of the capital." Lu Huajin didn't try to talk me out of it. He simply asked, "Who can you trust?" "The Jiang family people are reliable." "What about the Marquise's household?" I thought for a moment. "I can't fully trust a single one of them." 2 days later, someone from the Marquise's household arrived. This time, it wasn't the steward. It was Xiao Jingheng. He didn't bring a large contingent of guards. He was riding just a single horse. As he entered, his robe was caked with mud. He looked as if he hadn't slept for 2 nights. His eyes were dark and sunken, and his voice was hoarse. "Yanin has coughed up blood." I said nothing. "The imperial physician says she has at most 3 days left. Where is he, Wanru? There's nothing she can do." "And Lady He?" Xiao Jingheng's jaw tightened. "Zhang Mingtang." He paused for a moment. "I beg you to come back." This was the first time he'd ever used the word beg with me. The original host had waited 4 years, just waiting for a single kind word. Now that I've heard it, my heart feels strangely calm. "All right." Just as a glimmer of hope flickered in Xiao Jingheng's eyes, I said, "I have 3 conditions. First, I will be in charge of all personnel at Qingwu Courtyard. Second, samples of the child's medicine, food, and spices must be retained. No one is allowed to bring anything in without permission. Third, if there is another case of framing, the Marquis must, in front of the clan and the authorities, accept the consequences of the wrongful judgment. What do you want me to accept?" "We'll discuss that when the time comes. Draw up the document first." Xiao Jingheng looked at me. "You still refuse to trust me. You didn't trust me the first time you searched my room either. And you certainly didn't trust me the second time you searched the estate." I pushed the paper and pen toward him. "You sign it, I'll reply." In the end, he wrote down his promise. As he affixed his seal, the veins on the back of his hand stood out taut. I put the document away. "Let's go." 8. The air in Qingwu Courtyard was thick with the scent of medicine. Xiao Yanin lay on the bed, so thin he was little more than a skeleton. A trace of blood still lingered at the corner of his lips. "Lady," he waited in the outer chamber upon seeing me. She snapped. "Who gave her permission to come in?" Xiao Jinghong replied, I did. Have you lost your mind? Mother. It was the first time he had ever interrupted her in front of others. Yanan won't last 3 days. Lady He's expression shifted several times before she finally stepped aside, leaning on her cane. If anything else happens to the child, I will never let her off the hook. I ignored her. Once inside the room, Wanru was holding a bowl of medicine. Little Yanan, take a sip. Xiao Yanan caught the scent of the medicine and suddenly began struggling violently. The bowl of medicine crashed to the floor. No. He backed into the corner of the bed, staring at me in terror. You're going to kill me. There's poison in the medicine you gave me. Wanru's eyes reddened. Madam, the young master can't handle being startled. You'd better step outside for now. I stood by the bed, keeping my distance. I won't force you to drink it. Xiao Yanan paused for a moment. Stop all the medicine for today. Remove the scent pouch as well. Wanru was startled. How can we just stop the imperial physician's medicine on a whim? I'm in charge right now. But the grand lady, it's clearly stated in the documents. I looked at Xiao Jinghong. If the marquis changes his mind, I'll leave right now. Xiao Jingheng closed his eyes briefly. Do as she says. I ordered the courtyard to be sealed off. The names of all the servants originally in Qingwu courtyard were recorded one by one. Every meal delivered from the kitchen was divided into 3 portions, with samples retained. Medicines from the apothecary also had to be inspected by Lu Huajin. The nourishing soups, sachets, and clothing sent by Grand Lady were all turned away at the gate. When Matron Zhao tried to barge in, I ordered my men to tie her up on the spot. She couldn't believe it. Madam, I served the Grand Lady. That's precisely why I had you bound. Upon learning of this, Grand Lady he cursed from outside the courtyard for half an hour. I didn't open the door. As night fell, Xiao Yanan's fever spiked again. Lu Huajin reduced the dose of the calming powder, leaving only the mild medicines to protect the heart and relieve restlessness. The child still refused to drink it. I sat 3 steps away from the bed. You don't have to believe me, but Dr. Lu has no grudge against you. Xiao Yanan clenched his lips tightly. Matron Zhao said he was someone you brought in. That's right. Then he'd help you harm me too. I didn't argue. I'll take a sip of the medicine the doctor prescribed first. Lu Huajin looked up at me. Your body is different from a child's. You can't use this method to prove it. Xiao Yanan looked at him as well. This was the first person who hadn't gone along with what I said. Lu Huajin set the bowl of medicine down. Don't drink the medicine just yet. If your palpitations worsen tonight, we'll switch to a different prescription. You can watch me prepare it. He had the medicine boy bring the small stove into the room. He laid out each herb in front of Xiao Yanan, letting the child watch as they were added to the pot. After the decoction was ready, Xiao Yanan still hesitated. In the end, he took only 2 small sips. In the middle of the night, his high fever subsided somewhat. But when he caught the scent of a newly replaced sachet, he immediately covered his nose. No, plum blossoms. I turned around immediately. The sachet had been sent by Lady He at dusk. She said it contained only white sandalwood to calm the mind. The outer layer was embroidered with ordinary cloud patterns, but when I unwrapped the inner layer, 3 plum blossoms were hidden beneath the stitches. Xiao Yanan was trembling all over. When I smell this, it hurts. Where does it hurt? He clutched his chest. Here. I sealed the sachet inside a porcelain box. Lu Huajin took just 1 whiff, and his expression darkened. There are more black sesame leaves in this than in the old sachet. Lady He knew I was examining the scent. She had increased the dosage. She wanted the child to die after I took over. I didn't make a scene right away. I simply ordered that all fragrances be removed from the courtyard, and even the scented cakes used to perfume the clothes were discontinued. On the second night, Xiao Yanan did not have any convulsions. On the 3rd day, he finally stopped coughing up blood. Lady He asked 3 times from behind the courtyard gate. Each time, I simply said the child was still in critical condition. Meanwhile, I had the powder from the new sachet divided into 3 portions. 1 portion was given to Lu Huajin. 1 portion was sent to the Jiang family. The remaining portion was kept at the Marquise's mansion and sealed in the presence of 2 clan elders. Xiao Jingheng watched as I made these arrangements for the first time. He did not intervene. After the child went to sleep, he sat down at the table and opened the records left by the original owner. The first page contained only a few lines, yet he studied it for a long time. The 3rd day of the 2nd month in the 12th year of Jinghe, Yanan ran a high fever at the Zai hour. On the 4th day of the 2nd month, the Marquis had not returned. On the 5th day of the 2nd month, the honey cakes were withdrawn and the rash subsided. Almost every page after that contained similar entries. At what hour the illness struck, which bowl of medicine was taken, what food was delivered by whom. When he failed to come, the original owner had recorded it all. Xiao Jingheng turned to a page and his finger suddenly paused. That day, I was in the city. No. I glanced at it. That day, you were at the military camp. She sent people to summon you 3 times. You had someone reply, telling her not to use the child as an excuse to trick you back to the manor. His face grew paler by the second. I don't remember. Of course you don't remember. Every time Xiao Yanan ran a fever, it was nothing more than a report from a servant to you. But for those who cared for him, it meant a whole night without a moment's sleep. Xiao Jingheng continued flipping through the pages. His voice was hoarse. Why didn't anyone ever let me see this? I smiled. The original host gave it to you. You flipped through 2 pages and said she kept the child under surveillance as if he were a prisoner. He had nothing more to say. Xiao Yanan, lying on the bed, stirred slightly. I walked over to tuck the blanket around him. The child didn't wake up, but instinctively grabbed one of my fingers. Very gently, as if afraid of grabbing the wrong person. I didn't pull my finger away. Xiao Jingheng sat in the lamplight, watching for a long time. 9. After confirming that the scents of the medicines were incompatible, I did not immediately accuse Madame He. A single scent pouch only proves that someone had mixed in black hemp leaves. Matron Zhao could claim the pharmacy had made a mistake. The pharmacy could claim the perfume shop had delivered the wrong item. Madame He could wash her hands of the matter entirely. I had all the old medicine boxes in Qingwu Courtyard replaced. I also obtained 3 boxes of black hemp leaves that looked identical from Lu Huajin. 2 of them were empty. The 3rd box contained a small amount of powdered medicine. A mark had been made on the bottom of the box with an extremely fine ink line, and a few inconspicuous grains of blue sand had been mixed into the powder. Afterward, I deliberately mentioned in front of the servants that we had not yet determined which specific spice had caused the child's illness. Perhaps the black hemp leaves were just a coincidence. The real problem might still lie in the medicine. The news spread to Qingwu Courtyard in the blink of an eye. That night, a marked box went missing from the medicine cabinet. I made no fuss. I simply waited. 2 days later, Xiao Yanan's condition stabilized. He finally allowed me to take his pulse and agreed to eat the plain rice porridge I brought to his bedside. But he still wouldn't call me by name. Sometimes he would look at me as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he would lower his head again. I knew that trust couldn't be restored simply by removing a sachet. He had been taught for 3 years to be wary of me. We'd have to take it slowly. On the afternoon of the 3rd day, Lady He suddenly arrived at Qingwu Courtyard accompanied by the clan elders. Matron Zhao was followed by several burly maids. Search. I sat by the bed and didn't move. The maids went straight to my medicine chest and opened it. Their movements were so practiced it was as if they already knew exactly where the items were hidden. A moment later, a packet of black hemp leaf powder was unearthed from the bottom of the chest. Lady He looked at me with deep anguish. Zhang Mingtang, I had always thought you were merely jealous. I never imagined you could be this ruthless. He Wanru also knelt down. Last night at midnight, I saw the lady enter the medicine room with my own eyes. The clan elders immediately erupted in an uproar. She first made the child chronically ill, then pretended to save him. She's trying to use the child to regain control of the household. No wonder she insisted on sealing off the courtyard. It was to prevent others from discovering this. All the evidence points to me once again. Lady He looked at Xiao Jingheng. Jingheng, are you still going to protect her? Xiao Jingheng stood by the door. His gaze shifted from the powdered medicine to my face. He hesitated for just a moment. A very brief moment. But I saw it clearly. He still suspects me, even if the poisoning continued after I left the mansion. Even though I had just saved the child. Even though he'd clearly reviewed 3 years' worth of records. As long as someone placed a packet of powder in front of him, he'd still instinctively think, maybe it really was me. The last shred of something left in my heart shattered completely in that instant. It didn't hurt as much as I'd imagined. I just felt it was absurd. Xiao Jingheng finally spoke. Mingtang, did you go to the apothecary last night? I looked at him. Does your excellency wish to hear my explanation? His throat twitched. I sat up straight. No need. Let's convene at the ancestral hall. Lady He frowned. What? Let's invite the elders of the Xiao clan, the elders of the Jiang family, and officials from the Jingzhou prefecture to bear witness. I took out the document Xiao Jingheng had signed at the estate. The Marquis promised that if there were any more false accusations, he would publicly bear the consequences. Lady He exclaimed sharply. The evidence is irrefutable. How could this be a frame-up? Whether it's a frame-up or not, let's settle this in the ancestral hall. I looked at He Wanru. Miss He, you must also remember that you yourself said it was midnight. Her face paled slightly. 10. The doors of the ancestral hall opened at dusk. The Xiao clan elders filled both sides. The Jingzhou prefecture had sent an assistant magistrate. The representative from the Jiang family was my eldest brother. Grand Lady He sat at the head of the table, her walking stick resting across her lap. Matron Zhao knelt behind her. He Wanru was pale as a sheet, yet she was still holding herself together. Xiao Jingheng stood beneath the ancestral tablets. He did not look at me. I first took out the first document. After the first poisoning incident, the Marquise's household forbade me from approaching Xiao Yanan. The document bears the seals of the Marquis, Grand Lady He, and 2 clan elders. When I fell ill during the second ancestral rite, I had already been away from the estate for half a month. One of the clan elders said, "You didn't have to do it yourself. You could have ordered an old servant to do it." That's correct. I nodded. So these documents alone cannot prove my innocence. Please, Lu Huajin. Lu Huajin entered the ancestral hall, carrying 4 sealed porcelain bottles. The first bottle contained the medicinal residue from the medicine Xiao Yanan had taken before I left the mansion. The second bottle contained the medicinal residue sent by the Hao mansion to the pharmacy after I left. The third bottle contained the old perfume pouch retrieved by Qing Dai. The fourth bottle contained the new perfume pouch sent by Lady He after I returned to the mansion. Each porcelain bottle bears the date of sealing and the signature of a third-party witness. Lu Huajin handed the examination results to the magistrate. Both sets of medicinal residue, the earlier and the later, contain Ningxin vine. Both scent pouches, the earlier and the later contain black hemp leaves. Long-term concurrent use of these two substances can cause red rashes, hand tremors, nightmares, and palpitations, ultimately damaging the heart meridians. In other words, even after Lady Jiang left the estate and was barred from approaching Qingwu Courtyard, the accumulation of toxins continued. Silence fell over the ancestral hall. Grand Matriarch, he said coldly, if she could bribe old Lady Li, she could also bribe the servants at Qingwu Courtyard. A few bottles don't prove anything. The Grand Matriarch is right. I produced the powdered medicine I had seized from the medicine chest. So take a look at this packet. The magistrate poured the powder onto a sheet of white paper. Mixed in with the fine powder were a few grains of blue sand. I ordered 3 medicine boxes to be brought in. These 3 boxes were originally identical down to the last detail. One of them has an ink line on the bottom, and the powder is mixed with blue sand. That box went missing from the apothecary last night. The magistrate examined them, one by one. Most of the ink line on the bottom of the 3rd box had been scraped away, but traces still remained in the crevices. By the time the apothecary's steward was brought in, his legs had already gone weak. Who took this medicine box? Madam Zhao. Aunt Zhao suddenly looked up. Nonsense. The pharmacy manager cried, your fingerprint is on the medication log. The ledger was turned to last night's entry. It was indeed Aunt Zhao's fingerprint. She hurriedly explained, this servant was retrieving the deworming medicine for the grand lady, but I accidentally took the wrong one. Lu Huajin asked, since when has black sesame leaf been used as a vermifuge? Matron Zhao had no reply. I turned to Iwanru. Miss, he said, she saw me enter the medicine room at the hour of Z last night. That's right. She clenched her teeth tightly. I saw it with my own eyes. At the hour of Z last night, Xiao Yanan had a high fever. I was at Qingwu Courtyard wiping his body down until the hour of Chao. The Marquis, Dr. Lu, 2 physicians, and 6 servants were all present. I looked at her. Which Jiang Mingtang did you see? Wanru's face turned deathly pale. Lady, he snapped. She simply mixed up the time. Can a single hour's mistake really condemn someone to death? Her eldest brother scoffed. I've seen the Shao family's rules for myself today. Wanru's lips trembled. She suddenly looked up at Lady. Lady He's gaze was icy. It wasn't a warning. It was more like she was looking at a discarded pawn who had long since lost all value. Wanru could no longer hold back. She pulled a tiny folded piece of paper from her sleeve. This was sent to me yesterday by my aunt. There was only one sentence on the paper. After the hour of Z, lead Lady Jiang out of the courtyard. Below it was a 3-petaled plum blossom seal. Lady He's expression changed abruptly. You wretch. Wanru stepped back, weeping. I had no choice. My aunt said that, as long as I did as she asked, she would let me marry my cousin. But after the fire at the estate, she had someone send me a bowl of calming soup. I didn't dare drink it. There were black sesame leaves in the soup, too. It wasn't that her conscience had pricked her. She had simply finally realized that she, too, might be silenced. Just then, a commotion broke out outside the ancestral hall. Someone shouted, "Make way!" Qing Dai stumbled and staggered as she rushed in. She had a cut on her temple, her clothes were caked in mud, and she clutched a delivery ledger and 2 old incense pouches tightly to her chest. I jumped to my feet. Qing Dai. When she saw me, tears welled up in her eyes. Miss, your servant has returned. On the night of the fire, she escaped through the back window of the east wing, only to be captured by Matron Zhao's men and confined to the He family's suburban villa. Yesterday, when her guard got drunk, she seized the opportunity to escape. She remembered the delivery ledger she brought back clearly. For the past 3 years, every month, the incense shop under the He family's name would send a batch of specially made soul-soothing incense to the Marquise's mansion. The recipient was always Matron Zhao. On the inside of the old incense pouches, a subtle pattern of 3 plum blossoms was embroidered without exception. With this evidence, it was more than enough to prove that Matron Zhao had long been handling poisoned incense. Matron Zhao knelt on the ground and suddenly bowed her head heavily. It was all this servant's doing. This servant felt sorry for my cousin. I wanted to get rid of the young master for her sake, then frame the mistress. The grand lady had nothing to do with it. She confessed too quickly. It was as if she had long been prepared to take the blame for her mistress. I looked at her. Wanru hadn't yet reached the age of coming of age 3 years ago. Did you give the child incense back then to clear the way for her as well? Matron Zhao stiffened. I placed the brass button I'd found at the fire scene on the table. A 3-petaled plum blossom. Why does Xiao Yanan always draw this? And why does the puppet Suan left behind terrify you all so much? 11. Matron Zhao suddenly looked up. A faint childlike voice suddenly rang out from outside the ancestral hall. It's her. Xiao Yanan stood at the doorway, supported by Matron Tang. He had not yet fully recovered from his serious illness. His face was pale, and he gasped for breath with every step. Xiao Jinghong hurried over. Who told you to come? Xiao Yanan didn't look at him. He stared intently at the plum blossom clasp at Matron Zhao's waist. She gave me a sweet pill. Matron Zhao's face turned ashen. The child's voice was extremely soft, yet no one in the ancestral hall spoke. She said that if I took it and slept, the wicked woman would be driven away. Xiao Yanan slowly turned his head to look at me. His eyes held both fear and guilt. She also said that her real mother would come back. Matron Tang knelt down. Before Miss Su died, she did indeed leave behind a wooden puppet. She repeatedly warned that it must not be given to anyone wearing a plum blossom brooch. This old woman took silver from the lady of the house, and, fearing trouble, never dared to speak up. The old puppet was placed on the altar table. Someone had tried to pry it open, but it had never yielded. Xiao Yanan reached out his hand. My mother taught me. When he mentioned that word, everyone assumed he was referring to Suwan. Hold down the left hand, then turn the base. I did as instructed, holding down the puppet's left arm and turning the base half a turn to the right. There was a click. A fine crack appeared in the puppet's abdomen. Hidden inside were several pages of ledgers folded into tiny bundles, along with a short note that had never been sent. The ledger pages had long since yellowed. They recorded the silver allocated for the border troops' compensation in the 10th year of the Jinghe era. That year, more than 400 soldiers had fallen in battle in the northern frontier. The imperial court allocated 120,000 taels of silver. However, less than 60,000 taels actually reached the bereaved families. The remaining funds were handled by former staff of the Jing and Marquise's household and transferred to a money house registered under the He family's name. At the end of each entry, a private seal bearing a 3-petaled plum blossom was stamped. The magistrate took the ledger page, his expression suddenly turning grave. If these records are genuine, this is no longer merely a matter confined to the inner quarters of the Marquise's household. Xiao Jingheng clutched Suwan's short note, his fingers trembling constantly. The handwriting on the note had long since faded. She had written that she had accidentally discovered the He family embezzling the compensation silver and intended to hand the ledger pages over to Xiao Jingheng. But on the day she entered the Marquise's mansion to seek an audience, she was intercepted by the Dowager Lady He. After that, her daily medication was discontinued. She had originally been merely weak after childbirth. After 3 days without her medicine, her condition suddenly took a turn for the worse. Suwan seemed to sense that she did not have long to live, so she hid the ledger pages inside her son's wooden puppet. In the end, the short note was not addressed to Xiao Jingheng. It contained only one sentence. If anyone sees this, please keep my son safe. Xiao Jingheng stared at it for a long time. Mother. He looked up. His voice was so hoarse it was barely audible. Was it you who stopped Suwan's medication? Dowager He sat at the head of the table, her face long since drained of color. A moment later, she suddenly let out a laugh. A concubine of unknown origin. Do you really think you're worthy of questioning your birth mother like this? Everything the He family has done has been for the sake of the Marquis of Jing'an's household. If that silver hadn't been used to grease the wheels of officialdom and maintain ties within the military, do you think your marquisate would be secure? Xiao Jingheng looked as if he didn't recognize her. That's the death compensation left by fallen soldiers for their families. They're all dead. What difference does it make how much is given? Lady He spoke as if it were the most natural thing in the world. The He family has managed the Marquise's household for many years. What's wrong with taking a little? The eldest brother snapped. Take some? 60,000 taels of silver. How many bereaved families could that sustain? Lady He ignored him. She only looked at Xiao Jingheng. As for Yanan, he has the blood of a lowly woman running through his veins, and he knows about Meiku and the wooden puppet. If he were alive, he'd cause trouble sooner or later. You're still young, Mary Wanru, and you'll have a legitimate son of your own. Xiao Yanan stood by the door. His frail body trembled slightly, yet Lady He acted as if she hadn't noticed. Madame Zhang cannot bear children, yet she holds a vast dowry. Let her care for Yanan. If the child dies, she'll be the obvious culprit. Divorce her. Her dowry belongs to the Marquise's mansion. Marry Wanru and produce a legitimate son. She spoke faster and faster. It was as if she were outlining the most reasonable plan imaginable. I finally understood why she had signed the liability agreement so readily. She had always intended to strip me of any chance to get close to Xiao Yanan. Only then, if the child's illness worsened, would I be unable to investigate. And when she needed a scapegoat, she could slip poison into my room at any time. Lady He stood up, leaning on her cane. Jingheng, I am your mother. If you hand me over today, what face will the Marquise's household have left? The whole capital will know that the birth mother of the Marquis of Jing'an plotted to murder her daughter-in-law and her own grandchild and embezzled the compensation silver. Are you going to destroy our ancestral legacy for the sake of 2 women and a son born out of wedlock? The ancestral hall was eerily silent. Xiao Jingheng stood beneath the ancestral tablets. On one side was his birth mother. On the other was the life he had neglected for so many years. He remained silent for a long time. So long that Lady He thought he would still choose to defend her, just as he had in the past. Her expression even began to settle. The next moment, Xiao Jingheng stepped forward. He removed the family seal from her waist. Lady, his expression changed abruptly. How dare you? Mother. Xiao Jingheng's voice was extremely low. Precisely because you are my mother, I have never doubted you. That is why Suwan is dead. And Yanan nearly died. And time and again, I pushed away the very person who was truly protecting him. He handed the family seal to the clan elders. The He family plotted to harm the bloodline of the Marquise's household. They are to be stripped of their right to head the family and their noble titles. The Zhao family and the servants involved in the case are to be handed over to the Jingzhou prefecture. Regarding the old case of the compensation silver, I request that the authorities conduct a thorough investigation. Grand Lady He lunged forward and slapped him across the face. You ungrateful son. You've even abandoned your own mother for Jiang Mingtang. Xiao Jingheng turned his face away. He didn't look away. It's not for her. It's because if I don't deal with this now, I'm unworthy of being a marquise. As Lady He was being led away, she was still hurling insults. She called Suan lowly and of low birth. She called me jealous and malicious. She called Hiwanru ungrateful. Finally, she accused Xiao Jingheng of being unfilial. She cared most about the whole Fu's reputation. Yet on this very night, she tore that last shred of dignity to shreds with her own hands. 12. After the ancestral hall emptied, Xiao Yanan remained standing by the door. Matron Tang tried to embrace him, but he shook his head gently. He walked toward me, step by step. Halfway there, he began to pant heavily. I did not step forward. He should be the one to take those last few steps on his own. Xiao Yanan stood before me. I ate a sweet pill. Is that why you were sent away? It wasn't your fault, but I said you wanted me dead. Tears fell from his eyes. I also knocked over your medicine. You were scared back then. They all told you I would harm you. I crouched down so I was at eye level with him. You just believed the adults you depended on. The ones who were wrong were the people who took advantage of you. Xiao Yanan was crying so hard, his shoulders were shaking. So, are you still going to leave? Yes. He froze. Xiao Jingheng looked at me too. Mingtang. Yanan isn't fully recovered yet. Lu Huajin will treat him. He needs you. I sat up straight. He needs a safe place. He doesn't need me to continue being the Marquise's wife. Xiao Jingheng swallowed hard. I know you hate me. I don't hate you anymore. I said. When you saw the powdered medicine in Qingwu courtyard, you hesitated again. At that moment, I suddenly felt nothing at all. His face was pale. I just wanted to get to the bottom of it. Because you always suspect me first. Wait for me to explain. I looked at him. Xiao Jingheng, the problems between us have never been limited to just one misunderstanding. It's that every time something happens, you always choose the easiest explanation. Mother wouldn't harm anyone. An old servant wouldn't lie. A child wouldn't misremember. Only Jiang Mingtang is most likely to be jealous, most likely to have poisoned someone, and best suited to take the blame. Your so-called getting to the bottom of this is just a way to wait for me to prove I'm not a bad person. But a marriage shouldn't be like this. Xiao Jingheng remained silent for a long time. I'll change. Of course you can change. You can learn to trust the evidence, learn to be a father, and learn to shoulder the responsibilities of the Marquise's household. But all of that has long since had nothing to do with whether or not you're my husband. He looked at the 27 volumes of records on the table. In the past, I simply didn't see it. Now that I see it, it's too late. Xiao Yanan suddenly reached out and grabbed my sleeve. His grip was very weak. Once I'm better, can I come to your estate? He didn't beg me not to leave, nor did he ask me to continue being the Marquise's wife. He just wanted to go to my place. What would you do at the estate? Read books. He sniffed. I'll take my medicine on my own, and I won't eat any sweet pills recklessly. I ruffled his hair. All right. Really? Really? Xiao Yanan's grip on my sleeve gradually loosened. Xiao Jingheng stood where he was, no longer trying to persuade me. I suppose he finally understood that my willingness to look after Xiao Yanan didn't mean I was willing to return to the Marquise's mansion. Chapter 13. The case of the He family embezzling compensation silver soon reached the imperial court. The money house's old accounts were frozen. The officials implicated in the case were successively imprisoned. The families of fallen soldiers whose silver had been withheld over the years were re-registered, and the shortfalls were made up from the He family's confiscated assets. Matron Zhao could not withstand the interrogation and confessed to everything. It was Lady He who ordered Suan's medication to be discontinued. The sweet pills Xiao Yanan ate when he was 2 years old already contained a small amount of black hemp leaf powder. Later, when the child was taken into the Marquise's household, Lady He could not poison him directly, so she switched to a method involving incompatible medicinal scents. Ningxin vine was a sedative prescribed by the imperial physician. The black hemp leaves were hidden in a scent pouch. Neither substance was lethal on its own. However, their long-term interaction was sufficient to slowly destroy the child's heart meridians. The strange powder in the first bowl of medicine was slipped in by Matron Zhao during the commotion. The same substance had been hidden in my makeup box beforehand. The second time, the chestnut cake contained a different powdered medicine designed to induce palpitations. After old woman Lai was tricked into leaving the estate, she was silenced. Her body was eventually found in a dry well outside the city. Both Qing Dai's abduction and the fire at the estate were corroborated by servants from the He family's villa. Lady He was stripped of her noble title. Due to her advanced age, she was temporarily confined to the Xiao family's villa under the watch of the authorities. She would never be allowed to step outside the villa gates for the rest of her life. He Wanru was expelled from the Marquise's mansion for concealing Xiao Yanan's illness and aiding in perjury. She came to see me before she left. The red marks from the slaps on her face had not yet faded. I didn't mean for Anna to die. She hung her head. I just thought that if he were sicker, my aunt would need me even more. I looked at her. You saw him having seizures at night, yet you didn't call a doctor. Because you were afraid others would find out that you hadn't taken good care of him. Tears fell from her eyes. I just wanted to marry into the Marquise's household. Wanting to marry well is no reason to stand by and watch a child die. She opened her mouth. In the end, she said nothing. He Wanru did not poison him herself, but she stood by the well, watched as someone else pushed the child down, and turned away for the sake of her own future. That was no act of innocence. I did not plead on her behalf. Xiao Yanan remained at Qingwu courtyard for another month. Once he was able to get out of bed and walk, I brought him to the estate. It wasn't that the Marquise's household had placed the responsibility on me. Rather, it was a choice made by him and me. On the day I brought him here, Xiao Jingheng personally escorted him. The carriage was loaded with many items: medicinal herbs, boxes of books, clothing, and even 2 boxes of toys that lady he had previously forbidden him to touch. I only had the attendants keep the essentials. Everything else was sent back. Xiao Jingheng asked, "Why don't you want them?" "The estate is small. There's no room for them." He glanced at the spacious courtyard and knew I simply didn't want the compensation. The Marquise's household had piled up, but he didn't press the matter further. Xiao Yanan moved into the east wing. On the first night, he didn't want to turn off the light. As I passed by the doorway, I saw him sitting on the edge of the bed with his knees drawn up to his chest. "Can't sleep?" He nodded. "I'm afraid of the scent." I opened the window to let the night breeze in. "We don't burn incense here, and Dr. Liu personally prepares the medicine. No one will secretly switch it." Xiao Yanan looked at me for a long time. "Will you stay outside?" "No." His eyes darkened slightly. I continued, "I live right next door. If you call out, I'll hear you." The child paused for a moment, then slowly lay down. I lowered half of the bed canopy for him. As I walked out the door, he suddenly whispered, "Thank you." That night, he woke up only once. Early the next morning, the village head's granddaughter brought over a baked sweet potato. The little girl was only 4 years old, with soot smudged on the tip of her nose. She broke the sweet potato in half and insisted on giving Xiao Yanan a piece. "You're too skinny." Xiao Yanan held the sweet potato, looking at me helplessly. "Is it safe to eat?" I asked Lu Huajin first. Only after confirming it wouldn't interfere with his medication did I nod. "Eat half a piece." He took a small bite. It was very sweet. After finishing it, he instinctively touched his wrist. There was no rash. He didn't have any heart palpitations that night either. The next day, he saved the remaining half for the little girl. The village gradually became livelier. Originally, only a few farming families lived there. Later, Lu Huajin sent 2 sick children from the pharmacy to stay there temporarily. There were also orphans of fallen soldiers with nowhere to go, whom the Jiang family brought to me. With so many children, the empty rooms were no longer enough, so I went ahead and bought the abandoned farmhouse next door. The front yard was used for teaching reading and writing. The backyard served as a medical clinic. Xiao Yanan was in poor health and couldn't sit for long, yet he was always the first to arrive at the study each day. A boy 2 years younger than him often snatched his brush. The first time his brush was snatched, he instinctively reached to call a servant. Only when he turned around did he realize that no one on the estate treated him like a young master. In the end, he chased the boy halfway across the courtyard himself to reclaim his brush. He was so exhausted, his face turned bright red. Yet, he smiled. That was the first time I saw him act like an ordinary child. 14. Xiao Jingheng came by once every 10 days. At first, he always carried himself with the air of a marquis. As soon as he walked in, he asked Xiao Yanan what medicine he had taken that day and why his complexion was still poor. Lu Huajin handed him the prescription. "Take a look yourself, Marquis." Xiao Jingheng frowned. "I'm asking you. Whether a child takes medicine isn't simply a matter of good or bad. What each ingredient does, and when to increase or decrease the dosage, it's all written here." Lu Huajin's tone was calm. "If the Marquis wishes to know, just write it down." In the past, no one had dared to speak to Xiao Jingheng like this. His expression darkened for a moment. In the end, he still took the prescription. The next time he came, he would ask the questions himself. Xiao Yanan woke up several times during the night. How was his appetite today? Which foods should he avoid? How often should he return for follow-up visits? He was a very slow learner. Occasionally, he would get things wrong. Xiao Yanan no longer rushed to embrace his father whenever he saw him. The father and son would sit on the veranda, often without speaking for a long while. Once, Xiao Jingheng brought a small wooden sword. "You said, when you were little, that you wanted to learn swordplay." Xiao Yanan stared at it for a long time. "Father promised to teach me before." Xiao Jingheng's fingertips stiffened slightly. "Yes, I've waited many times. I'm sorry." The child didn't take the sword right away. "You always say you're busy with military affairs. Aren't you busy now?" "I'm still busy." Xiao Jingheng paused for a moment. "But being busy isn't a reason to never come." Only then did Xiao Yanan pick up the wooden sword. "Then I'll teach you for half a shai today. We'll stop when I get tired." "All right." While they were practicing swordplay in the courtyard, I sat on the veranda calculating the silver needed to build the private academy. Lu Huajin placed a cup of warm tea beside me. "The Marquis has memorized 2 more medicinal ingredients than last time. That's great progress." He caught the sarcasm in my words and chuckled softly. "It's better than no change at all. Change is his business. Whether to forgive him is mine." Lu Huajin nodded. "You're right. He has never urged me to return to the Marquis's mansion for the sake of the child. Nor does he try to decide for me what true fulfillment looks like." The location for the academy was set in the southern part of the city. It wasn't far from Lu Huajin's herbal pharmacy. The front courtyard had 6 classrooms, and the back courtyard could be converted into a medical ward. There were also 2 pomegranate trees growing in the courtyard. I used my dowry to purchase the estate. After Qing Dai recovered from her injuries, she became the stewardess of the inner courtyard. I returned her indenture to her and set aside a separate monthly allowance for her. She held the indenture and cried for a long time. "Are you sending me away, miss?" "No. You can stay or you can get married. Open a shop, do whatever you want. You shouldn't stay just because you have nowhere else to go." Qing Dai carefully tucked the indenture into her bosom. "Then, I'll stay. Even if you reduce my monthly allowance in the future, I won't leave. I'll keep paying your monthly allowance as before. I don't run my household by skimping on my own people. Matron Tang stayed as well. She couldn't read much, but she was exceptionally skilled at caring for young children. After Suwan's old case was cleared, she was given a small symbolic grave outside the city. On the day Xiao Yanan went to pay his respects, he brought along the repaired wooden puppet. He sat by the grave for a long time. When he returned, he took the initiative to place the puppet in the cabinet in my study. Can you keep it for me? Why not keep it in your own room? I'm afraid I'll lose it. He paused for a moment. I feel at ease knowing it's with you. I took the puppet. I didn't say anything. I simply locked the cabinet door and handed him a key. Trust isn't just a title. It's that he was finally willing to entrust the most important thing to me. 15. The divorce was set for early autumn. The He family's old case hadn't been fully resolved yet, but the reputation of the Jing'an Marquise's mansion had already plummeted. Some in the clan advised me to postpone it. The Marquis now recognizes his mistake and is willing to take you back. The dowager lady he has already been dealt with. There's no one left in the Marquise's household who can hold you back. You have no biological children. Where will you go after the divorce? I placed the terms of the divorce I had prepared on the table. I have my dowry, my estate, and my private academy. I can go anywhere. The terms were not complicated. My entire dowry would be returned in full. The Marquise's household would make up the difference for the portion of silver they had previously misappropriated. Xiao Yanan would retain his status as heir to the Marquise's household, and the household would pay for his medical care, food, clothing, and education annually as stipulated in the documents. Where the child would live would be determined by his health and his own wishes. No one may ever again use filial piety or clan obligations as an excuse to forcibly bring him back. Xiao Jingheng agreed to all of these terms. On the day of the signing, he arrived half an hour earlier than the agreed-upon time. 2 divorce agreements lay on the table. He sat by the window, his tea untouched. When I entered, he looked up. Ming Tang, does your excellency have any other conditions? No. He handed me the brush. I took it and dipped it in ink. If one day, Xiao Jingheng suddenly spoke up. I waited for a moment, but he didn't continue. Perhaps he wanted to ask if one day when he truly learned to trust, I would come back to him. But he knew himself that the answer was no longer meaningful. I wrote my name on the divorce decree. Zhang Mingtang. Each stroke was steady and deliberate. Xiao Jingheng stared at those 3 characters. In the past, I did indeed wrong you. He seemed surprised that I'd only replied with a single, Don't you want to say anything else? Everything that needed to be said was said that day at the ancestral hall. I thought you'd hate me. Hating someone takes a lot of emotional energy. I set down my brush. I have a lot to do right now. I don't have time. After leaving the magistrate's office, I found it had just rained. The bluestone path had been washed until it gleamed. Qingdai ran over, holding an umbrella. Miss, the plaque has been delivered to the private academy. Dr. Liu said the characters are too large and might not fit on the lintel, so he asked you to hurry back and take a look. I got into the carriage. Before the curtain was drawn, I saw Xiao Jingheng still standing at the entrance to the magistrate's office. He did not come after me. Some losses cannot be undone simply by chasing after someone to apologize. On the day the Mingtang Private Academy opened, many people came from the south of the city. Among them were old acquaintances of the Jiang family. There were commoners who had been treated by Dr. Lu Huajin. There were also families of fallen soldiers who had just received their compensation payments. New tables and chairs were set up in the front courtyard. A faint scent of medicine wafted from the back courtyard. The children were dressed in a variety of clothes. Some even had patches on their sleeves, yet they all received the same set of paper and writing brushes. Xiao Yanan, dressed in a light blue outfit, stood at the entrance handing out student registration books. He was still frail. After handing them out for a while, he had to sit down to rest. But no matter who urged him to go back inside, he refused. A carriage from the Marquis of Jing'an's mansion was parked across the street. Xiao Jingheng did not enter the gate. He watched for a moment through the crowd, then handed a pen case to the gatekeeper. For Yanan. Then he turned and left. The drumbeat sounded. The academy's main gate slowly opened. The children scrambled to rush inside. Xiao Yanan, however, pushed his way through the crowd and walked up to me. It was as if he'd been practicing for a long time. First, he took a deep breath. Then, he secretly clenched the hem of his shirt. Mother. The word was very soft. Yet, it was very clear. The surroundings suddenly fell silent for a moment. I was stunned as well. Xiao Yanan's ears slowly turned red, but his eyes never left me. Can I call you that? I smoothed out the collar of his shirt, which had become rumpled. Yes, he suddenly smiled. It wasn't to curry favor. It wasn't to cautiously gauge an adult's reaction. It was simply pure joy. Lu Huajin walked in from the backyard, holding a stack of newly printed student rosters. He handed me the top one. There's one item missing here. I looked down at it. Name, Xiao Yanan. Age, 8. Place of origin, the capital. Health status, recently recovered from chronic poisoning, requires long-term convalescence. The final column listed his relationship to the headmaster. It was left blank. Stepson no longer seemed appropriate. Adopted son didn't quite fit either. He has a biological father, his own surname, and his own clan. I care for him no longer because of the Marquise's orders, nor to prove that I am worthy of being a mother. The sound of lively reading echoed through the courtyard. Xiao Yanan stood beside me, and quietly grabbed my sleeve. It was different from the times before, when he would unconsciously grab me while ill. This time, he was fully conscious. I picked up my brush. I wrote 2 characters in the blank space: family,